Okay. So how did you end up getting into long arming? What was the story there?
So Tom was retired and I was looking to retire or semi-retire. And I kept saying to him, we should be long armors. And he said, no, we're not going to be long armors. You're crazy. But unbeknownst to me, he started investigating what long arming was because he didn't really know, and found that it could definitely be a viable business for us.
So he got himself educated a little bit on the subject.
He did.
So he went from you're crazy to, well, let me check this thing out. Okay. So all right.
So
So
here's how that happened.
okay, let's hear the real story from
But yeah,
Tom.
exactly.
So Kate had some quilts, and so we went to fabric stores that also rented machines, Gambles. So we went and we did one of her quilts at on a rental machine, and that was okay. I said, okay, this isn't rocket science. I could do this. And then we decided to do another one, but at a different place to see, if we could learn something different. And I said, well, you know what, this is viable. So then I called around central Massachusetts and I said, if I bring you a queen size quilt tomorrow, when can I get it back? And the average answer was 7 weeks.
Mhm.
So as a business person, the light went on and said, well, this is certainly viable as far as there's a market. So that's when we decided that we would look at it closer.
Okay, so a light bulb went off there, and so at that point, did you just decide to go ahead and get a long arm?
No, we did a little more in looking at it, and some of the people that we had been exposed to, I tell this story all the time. A lot of the long armors were quilters like Kate, and decided, well, why don't I just, instead of give my quilt to somebody else, why don't I just buy a machine and then I can do the quilting as well. But I think that some of them really didn't understand how to run a business or what that takes or
Mhm.
how much it takes. And so they kind of turn their passion into a nightmare in some cases. So we have actually we have customers that we do their quilts for who have bought long arm machines and are too intimidated to use them.
Really? So, okay. So you were kind of gaining this knowledge and insight into everything, and so tell us about when you finally just bit the bullet and decided to go ahead and get one.
Well, all those kind of factors said to me, this is doable, because it's it's not that difficult to learn the craft, and there's a market out there if it's going to take 7 or 8 or 10 weeks turnaround,
Mhm.
so that we could do this business and run it as a business as instead of a hobby. And so that's what we that was our plan.
So
And
you,
when we decided to start our business, we said we're going to have a maximum 2 week turnaround. And that's how we ended up with 3 machines.
wow. So you from the get-go, you decided to have a maximum 2 week turnaround.
Yeah.
That's quite impressive.
When
So,
you start out in the beginning, you don't know what you don't know, right? So we just hopped in with both feet and bought our first machine. And a few years later, we said, well, we're getting close to not being able to do the 2 week turnaround, so let's buy another machine.
okay. So and so needless to say, you started out with the purpose of just strictly doing it as a business.
Yes.
There wasn't any hobbying really involved, right?
No, that was like kind of, in the back of my mind, geez, I'll be able to do my own quilts, but I'm kind of like the shoemaker's son and don't always get my quilts done.
Okay. And Was your first machine, did you get a Gamble to start out with?
We did,
Okay,
Optimum, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
okay. And so can you tell us, what, why did you decide to go with a Gamble to start out with? Did you do some research with that or?
Yeah, we did. So we went to some quilt shows where, there were a bunch of different machines, different manufacturers, and um, we tried them, minimally, but we tried them. And one of the things about the Gamma was um, it's so solidly built, and I look at some of them and I feel like you start quilting and they're gonna fall off the rack, the table. And Gamble just struck me as the best in the business. And I had done some research and, talked to people and stuff. So it wasn't, we weren't going to do hand guided either. And we were going full throttle with Statler and, we wanted this to be a real viable business. So we wanted the best in class.
Okay. So, so did you started out with a Statler?
Yes,
Okay. And did you buy one new or did you get a used one
a
from somebody?
rebuilt.
Okay, okay.
And,
And
and so one of the things about the quality was, you know, I liken it to a World War II Jeep. They were just built to last. So, the Gamels, it's not a lot of plastic machinery or whatever. So
right.
when you even if it's 10 or 15 or 20 years old, when it's refurbished, it's ready to go.
Yeah, and that's a common thread that I've heard almost everybody that we interview, they talk about, they use words like it feels industrial, it feels
Mhm.
tough.
Exactly.
And but at the same time, it can move very smoothly.
Oh, it moves like a dream. It's so easy to manipulate and operate. And even with the Statler, we've gone as soon as a new upgrade comes out, we jump on board because we want the latest technology and be able to do things efficiently as possible.
Okay, and so this was 8 years ago, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, and started out with a Statler. So did you know how to use it when you first got it? You said you had some practice on some other machines.
Yeah, we had taken some lessons at different spots in our area. And then when it was delivered, we got a half a day training session. But I'm pretty proficient with computers, so that part of it was easy, or easier, right? I could pick it up pretty relatively easy. And just some of it was learned by the seat of your pants. I did do the quilting with confidence the first time you came to New England, and that helped a lot. It gave me a lot of stuff, a lot of information that I either didn't know or forgot or whatever. So, and YouTube videos, and now there's so much more of that that's so helpful.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And there is, even from 8 years ago, there's so much more education available. You can purchase an entire course, new owner training on gamble.com. Um, I wanted to ask you, business wise, was starting a business, was that a new thing for you, or had you done any a business before, or?
Little like kind of, let's see if I can do this that didn't work. And but Tom is the business motivator and driver. He's worked in all kinds of businesses and has a very good business mind and knows the logistics of setting things up and making it work and keeping it running. And so he's the brain behind the operation as far as that's concerned.
Awesome, awesome. So, so this machine that you got 8 years ago, do you still have that same machine?
We do.
Is it
And
still going strong?
going strong.
Excellent.
Yeah,
And
it's a great
it,
machine, and it's 30-inch throat with a 12-foot machine, and it
12-foot table, yeah.
A 12-foot table, yeah. It just keeps going. It works every day, all day.
Okay. And did I hear you say that you'd gotten another one since then? Since
Yeah,
the
so
first?
we got probably a few years after that, we got a second one, which was one of a long armor who I knew called me and said, I'm downsizing my business. I'm getting ready to move. Would you be interested in buying one of my machines? And she had two. So we went and looked at it, and it's 26-inch throat on a 10-foot table. So
Classic, yeah.
we figured that would work well for our business. So we bought that, and then we bought our third machine, which is also with Optum 30-inch throat.
Okay,
And at that time we bought an 8-foot table.
okay,
So we have 3 different size tables and 2 different size machines, and they're all running all the time.
okay. So you keep them running. So Kate, are you pretty much the only one that runs the machines?
Not at all. Tom does it more than I do. I'm
Okay,
the customer service person.
And I'm the machine operator and trophy husband. Those are my titles.
I got you. I got you. I'm kind of getting a different picture here. It looks like Tom is the one that does most of the work here. Is
Oh,
that?
definitely.
Oh, okay.
Well, it depends on what you call work. I do the most of the production.
He does.
But
Okay.
when Kate is when you hear Kate with the customers going through their quilt and isn't this awesome, and I love this, and this is the thread and this is the pattern, that's a whole lot different than I could do.
Okay. And Kate's the
So
face of the business.
she is absolutely the face of
It's
the
one that
business.
attracts the people in.
I'm the back room.
You're the you're the laborer in the background
Exactly.
there.
Although the quilters do love him.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. So yeah, so you attract them in, and then they grow on Tom. So
Yeah.
so I wanted to ask you. So one of the machines you have is the 26-inch classic instead of the third, and the other two are 30-inch optimum, right?
Yes.
Um, and for the people watching, uh, what kind of difference in functionality do you see? Do you have any recommendations, or
I do. I wish we had all three machines at 30 inches, just because we're a production operation and
uh-huh,
the shorter arm means you roll the quilt more.
right. So yeah, so when you have a smaller one, which it's not a whole lot smaller, the 26,
Yeah.
that's the second
But
size.
it's that one row.
Yeah, so you got to roll it a little more often.
And remember, if you got somebody's running from between three machines, that does make a difference.
Right, right. Yeah, you guys stay pretty busy. So the two of you, and mostly Tom, run the three machines. And would you say you keep them are all three of them pretty much running every day, or
Pretty much.
Yeah.
okay.
So there's a workflow that is more efficient. And the workflow that's most efficient is if you can get all three, if two of you in the beginning of the day can get all three machines loaded with some backup loading, then one person can keep three machines running. But one person cannot keep three machines running and take them off and check them and trim them and then load something else on. So there's diminishing returns. Like if we had a fourth machine, it really wouldn't do us any good. And
Gotcha.
in the third machine, we need to be well coordinated in order to have all three machines productive during the day. If there's just one of us, really, we only need two machines.
Gotcha. Um, one thing that occurred to me, do you have zipper leaders?
Yes.
Does that benefit you a lot to have the zipper leaders?
Well, what's the alternative? We don't know any alternative.
Well, without the zipper leaders, you pin it on there and then you got to unpin it.
Oh, so we have the zipper leaders, but you still have to attach it to the leader. But I would tell you that one thing that we did very early on, in fact, the very first time we went and rented a machine, in the first 3 minutes, we were pinning our quilt backing onto a leader
Mhm.
with 3-inch corsage pins. And I looked at Kate and I said, I'm not doing this. There's got to be a better way than this. And as it turns out, at one of the at MQX in Manchester, one of the teachers, and this is our first year, Georgia Stahl said, "Oh, I staple," and she showed us how she staples on. So we don't pin, we staple, and it takes about probably 15% of the time to staple a quilt backing onto a leader as it does to pin it. And it takes about 4 seconds to remove it.
Okay, okay,
And we never used the red snappers.
okay, okay. Well, that's a good good useful piece of information. I have a question here from Yolanda is asking, how soon after purchasing your first long arm, how soon did you feel comfortable to start taking quilts for business?
So it was a little intimidating initially, but I joined several quilt guilds in my area, and we started taking in charity quilts, and we didn't charge for charity quilts. I also went around to the quilt shops in the area and brought quilts that we had long armed, so I could show them, our work,
Yeah.
which helped a lot. But it took a while. I would say a good 6 or 8 months to get the confidence from anybody that wasn't our friend or didn't know us and want to try us out. But the learning curve on doing it was pretty easy, I think.
Okay. So
I,
you
I, I
started out.
I would
Go
tell you
ahead,
it was
Tom. I'm
pretty
sorry.
painful. It was pretty painful. We would have issues and we didn't know how to resolve them, or the machine would be giving us bad stitches and that's not hard to fix, but it's hard to diagnose. And
Mm,
I think going back, one of the things that I didn't do a good enough job is to take advantage of all of the resources that Gamble and others have
True.
online and others. We could have become much more proficient, much quicker than just doing the work and flying by the seat of our pants and learning as we go. So I would tell anybody, take, take 100% advantage of all the training available out there.
yeah, and that's a great point because now even more than when you guys started 8 years ago, there are so many resources
Right.
available. Um, there's tons of videos on gamble.com. There's purchasable entire courses, video courses, and you can even buy one-on-one Zoom sessions with some of the Gamble educators. Uh, a lot of the people I talk to, if they're having trouble getting a hold of how to do things, I will tell them to write down areas where they have difficulty with, and get a little bit of a list of things, and they can set up. I think it's $59 for a 1 hour session with an educator, and they'll have all their stuff, their questions written out, and something like that is helpful because I mean, Kate, you're fortunate you have Tom there, your workhorse and slave labor there to
That's
to
right.
help you and but there's a lot of people out there. They if they maybe by themselves, I
Yep.
do want to let people know that yeah, there are tons of resources to get you to be your skill level. Even with the business, we have information on helping people get their business going. So anyway, I'm not trying to make it into a big commercial, but since
No, but that's so much more helpful than what was available to us when we started. And there was, the people that we bought the machine from they were in St. Albans, Vermont. So we weren't running to them and they weren't running to us if we needed
right.
something. We could call them, but they were running a business and were busy. And the other people, there was one quilt shop where we took a lesson, and I mean, she was nice enough and I knew her, but she wasn't good at answering your questions. So we didn't really have anybody to fall back on.
Right.
And I've been around sewing machines my whole life. So for me, I wasn't intimidated by the sewing machine part of it. And I've worked on computers a lot. So I'm not afraid to try things. So
Gotcha.
But
And
just to circle back, people should take full advantage of all of the educational material and videos that are available. And that's something if we had it to do all over again, I would have done that, and I did not. So we kind of had to fly by the seat of our pants a lot because we didn't do that. Now we have done over 5,000 quilts in the 8 years we've been doing this. And I think we're very proficient. But I really wish we had taken advantage of all those other resources.
yes, yes. And I have actually, Delana is asking a question. There is no free training with the purchase of a machine. You have to pay additionally for training. I will tell you, Delana, that's not the case. If you purchase a machine, from Gamble, you'll get, all the new owner training. And yeah, that comes, with the purchase of the machine. So,
But typically that's not going to be enough. That's going to get you started. But
yes,
it's sophisticated enough that over time you're going to say, well, how do I do this? Or how do I do that? Or, continue, besides taking the initial training, which will help get you going,
yes,
always take advantage of all the available training otherwise.
yes.
and a lot of it's free. A lot of it's, you go on YouTube and you can find all kinds of free information. And when I get stuck with something, that's my first place to go is I go to YouTube or the Gamble website, and 9 times out of 10, I don't have to reach out to anybody to figure
Yeah,
out.
there's tons of free resources on
Yeah.
gamble.com. But yeah, also, anyone that purchases a, machine from Gamble, they do get the new owner, training, and, all that comes with it. And
And
also,
it's
I will
much
tell
different than
people,
when we started,
yeah, yeah,
because I know people that have bought machines since we started, and the training's much better.
yeah,
Uh,
much more comprehensive, than it
but
used to
yeah,
be. And also, if there's anything, if you ever have anything, going wrong with the machine or something that needs, you can always, set up a call with us in tech support. I work in tech support, so I
and you guys
talk
are
to people
great.
all the
Wait,
time.
what, you mean sometimes things go wrong with the machines?
But yes, Tom, believe it or not, it's a machine, and you'll have something go wrong here and there.
Right.
Even the best in the business, will have that. But that's what we're here for in, tech support also. So you have tech support that you can always, reach out to for free. And we can walk you through troubleshooting if there's any problems. There's, the new owner training that comes free with machines. And there's also extra purchasable, sessions as you move on. And like you said, it's a lifetime of learning. You will
Mhm.
continue to learn things for many years, when you have these machines. So yeah. All right, let's move on to you guys. You're, when you first started, I wanted to ask you, I know you talked about how, that you saw that there was, what was it, 7 week, turnaround
Yeah,
time
yeah, or more.
or more? And, did you really know that there was going to be enough long arm business available in your area to support your business, or did you just have a hunch, or did you, tell us about that?
So because I called around, and I'm gonna say I called 8 or 10 long armors in central Massachusetts and said, if I bring you a quilt, when am I gonna get it back? And so some of it was really stretched out. And the average was, let's say, 7 weeks. Um, so that told me there was a demand that was not being met.
Hmm.
So that's when I say the light bulb went on, that's what that told me and said, people aren't getting these things turned around.
Right.
That's because there's more work than's getting
Yeah.
done.
So that fact, based on that fact, you knew. Um, so when you first started, you said, did you say you started just doing the, what, Quilts of Valor
Yeah,
or
charity quilts. We did a
charity
lot
quilt?
of charity quilts. We did customer quilts, but they were people who knew us or knew me, were in the guilds that I belonged to. And but the charity quilts helped because then I could go to a guild meeting and do show and tell and say, oh, we quilted this. Or go to a quilt shop and say, oh, we quilted this, so that they knew, they could see our work and know that we
Mhm.
were doing a nice job. Um, and word of mouth spread, and it didn't come
Yeah.
overnight, but it spread, and being able to turn the quilts around and have them being quilted properly is a huge thing, because somebody doesn't want to get their quilt back that's got all kinds of mistakes or problems with it. And if, on the rare occasions when somebody said, oh, this isn't quite what I wanted, then we do what we need to do to fix it.
Gotcha.
But it
Um,
also gave us at the beginning, I mean, Kate was out there going to quilt guilds and fabric stores and whatever. So for us to do free quilts of valor or charity quilts, it gave us the opportunity to do a lot of quilts and really hone
Right.
our
Learn our
proficiency.
skill.
Because we weren't really busy at the time, because building up a customer base was probably the hardest thing. And there was that even surprised me. These quilters, they've got a long armor. They're not price sensitive. You can't just, reduce the price by 10% and they're going to come to you. They're going to stay with where they're at. But the turnaround time was certainly a big thing. But I remember one week I did 17 charity quilts for a summer camp up in Maine. So we did a lot of that. And like I say, it made us proficient because we got to do a lot of quilts. And we got an in with people, even if they were going to another long armor, the quilt guild was saying, hey, we can, you'll do these 4 or 5 quilts of valor for free. Well, here you go. So it was a good way to get our foot in the door,
yeah.
get well known, and have enough work to get to work on and practice on and be proficient at.
And how important were the guilds, and what role does the guilds play in building your business?
They played a fairly significant role, and they continue to, because they're my quilty friends and they want to help a friend. And so, they might give you a quilt that's not, first of all, we don't do any custom quilting. So that's off the books right away. So it wasn't like they were giving us custom quilts to do and we had to, step up to the plate, but they would give us their edge to edge to do. And then, they'd be like, oh, you're gonna go see Kate and Tom. The turnaround time is great. The quilts are great. So it really spread by word of mouth and talking to the guild members,
Mhm.
and being a part of the guild.
So word of mouth was really, really big.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I would tell you that gaining a customer base was surprisingly slow to me. But that's the way it was done. Kate, everybody knew Kate from the quilt guilds and the fabric stops and so if you've got 10 people that use you and they're all recommending you, that still doesn't give you any business. But as that grows and you've got 50 people that are using you and the turnarounds, great, and the work's great, then everything starts to grow geometrically. As far as
Yeah.
your customer base, I used to tell people it's like being the new dentist in town. Why are they going to come to you? They've got a dentist. It's really hard to get them here the first time. That's hard to do.
So the real growth came with actual customers and then spreading from those customers.
Exactly. Once you get a customer for the first time and do a good job, and do it quickly. And then they're at a quilt guild and saying, oh, these people, have you tried these people or heard about these people or whatever? So then it's, then it takes off, but it's a long runway.
So, I just want to touch on that turnaround time. Is the turnaround time, is that, do you think that's a big factor? Does that,
Oh, it's
Absolutely.
a
make
huge,
people?
Mhm.
huge, because that basically, that was our differentiation is, people have a quilt, have a long armor, but they've delivered this quilt, it's been 4 months, and they call them and they still can't tell them when it'll be. And these are some of the people that have turned their quilting passion into a nightmare because they have a machine and they're not working it every day as a business,
Mhm.
and they're getting. I called one person when I was checking around. They said, "Oh, geez, I got 41 quilts ahead of you. I don't know when I'm going to get to it or whatever." They were not a happy camper. They weren't running a business. They had a gun to their head.
Gotcha.
So when people are leaving quilts with them and then calling and asking, where is it? That's a whole lot different than people coming to us and you give somebody a quilt back in 5 or 7 days and they're all excited to just go on to their next project.
Mhm.
Some of these other places, they forgot what quilt it is that's at the place.
So it sounds like you're saying that, actually doing, some work is probably an important part of it, getting the work done, huh?
Well, we're running it like a business. So that's why we have 3 machines and 2 operators.
And we run the machine all day, every day. Unless we're, I mean, we do take a little bit of time off, but for the most part, it's all day, every day.
Okay. I've got Marnie's asking a question. Did anyone ask if, do you, if you, let's see, did anyone ask if they do custom quilting? And did they do custom quilting right away or did it take a while on
We don't
custom?
do custom quilting. We
Did
just
you
made
not?
that decision in the beginning because custom quilting takes so long.
Mhm.
You typically don't make the money unless you're doing quilts for big shows, somebody's going to put it in a big show or something like that. So that's not our place in the business. And we
So you
recognize
do,
that right off the bat.
strictly edge to edge.
Yeah.
Well, and if you think about it, we have 3 machines. So doing edge to edge on 3 machines, one person can keep 2 or 3 machines running. But if you're doing custom work, more or less, you're standing over that machine for the entire time. So, you could charge them $800 and they have no, they can't handle that because they have no idea how much goes into it. So that's just a different part of the business that we're not doing.
Gotcha. That's very, very understandable. So let's see. Um, Now, when you first started this, business, how did you come up with the, funds to, purchase your first machine?
Well, we had good careers, and so we had financial resources. We did borrow for the first machine through one of your financing partners, and that was relatively expensive relative to the interest rate. But
Yeah.
we did finance our first machine, and we bought our next 2 outright.
Okay. Um, Now, so currently and over the course of it, how many hours a week, would you say you spend, working on doing quilting? And is it the same now as it was in the beginning?
We spend a lot of time. The good part, and when I say we quilt all day, every day, it's all day from 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning till 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and typically on weekends as well. But if Tom wants to go play golf, he goes play golf, goes to play golf. I go to my guild meetings. So we get stuff in and we have children and grandchildren. So it's not like we're totally glued to the machines, but overall we keep them running all day, every day.
Do you enjoy this career?
I do. I'm very passionate about people and quilt and fabric and talking about it and doing it. I enjoy running the machines. I enjoy helping the customers pick out their patterns and their threads, and because some of them come and they have no idea. And it doesn't matter if they've brought us quilts 100 times or 3 times. Can you just help me? I don't know what to do. And that's when I really enjoy that part of it, probably more than any other, is working with the customers.
Gotcha. Do you enjoy it, Tom?
I do, but before I answer that question, so Kate is just unbelievable expert. When people come in and need advice or whatever, they're in good hands with her, and she's just awesome at that. We're both over 70 years old, and I would like to work less. So we have 3 machines, we work them all day, every day, and I would prefer to do 60% of that volume.
Gotcha.
At this stage, we have more money than we have time.
Well, you probably have the ability to change things around if you want to.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we've been talking about that.
I got you. I got you. Let me ask you, as far as do you charge by the hour, by the square inch? How does that work?
Square inch.
Okay.
And then we also offer binding. We have 2 ladies that do bindings for us. They're machine stitched on both sides. We'll do, like, if a quilt needs a minor repair, I'll do that, or piece of backing, I'll do that. Make a label, those kind of things we do as little add-ons, but they're not a major part of the business.
Can you tell us what the charge per square inch is?
2 3/4 cents.
Okay. So do you know about how many quilts you do per year?
We do between 8 and 900.
Okay, well, boy, you stay busy. And is that what it's been like over the 8 years, or has it changed?
No, it built up to about that. I'd say the COVID year, it got up to that, and we expected, we were growing by 40% a year. So we expected if it grows another 40% the following year, we're going to be overwhelmed. So we prepared for that by renovating our garage into a studio, complete with air conditioning, new windows, all of that. And then everything leveled right off, and it has stayed level, which was okay. It just means we have 3 machines and we can handle that volume better than we could have with 2 machines.
Right.
But it leveled right off at about 800 to 900 quilts. It's been that way for 3 or 4 years now.
Okay. So during the COVID time, it kind of reached a peak. Is that right?
Yeah, and we didn't know if it was COVID or if it was, the local market, because some people that were doing long arming, when they decided to quit, they just closed up shop and moved to Florida or whatever. So it left people hanging, and some of them came to us.
So, and you alluded to in the beginning, it kind of took off slow as far as building your customer base.
It
Yeah,
did.
getting the customer for the first time is the difficulty. Not keeping them because we had great turnaround and great service.
So once you get them, if you got great service and great product, you're able to keep them, huh?
Exactly. And it's not price sensitive. It's not like I'm gonna go somewhere else because I'm gonna spend $18 less for my queen size quilt. Got nothing to do with price.
Gotcha. Well, can you tell us, can you think of what might have been the hardest part of growing this business?
Well, like I said, well, the things I would do different. First of all, I would take advantage of all the training available so that we weren't learning, that I wasn't learning by the seat of my pants painfully. Number one. Number two, quilts come to you in all kinds of shape. I don't mean shape, although some of it's shape. And we did not start out by charging preparation fee. So some quilts are just, you know, the backing is in a bag that they got from Amazon. So it's got all creases in it. It has to be ironed. It's not squared. It's 50% larger than the quilt top. So we've got to cut it down. And they give us batting that's still in the packaging. We've got to cut that down. We should have started earlier on charging preparation fees because we spend a lot of time getting the thing ready to go. And that's on some customers, and other customers give us everything that's ready to load. So it's not fair between the two different customers to charge them the same price. So those are two things that I would tell you. And then the other thing I would tell you for your audience that's wondering how to run or improve their business, some other things like, so you have bobbin winders on your machine. We've never used those.
Mm-mm.
We would not want to tie up a machine to wind a bobbin.
Hmm.
So we have standalone bobbin winders. But also we have 90 different thread colors, and we have 2 big cones of each thread color. So that if we're going to start up a quilt with a certain thread color, we're going to load one cone onto the machine, and the other cone we're going to use on the bobbin winder, so that there's no waiting for the cone to make bobbin, just little things like that. So we've looked hard at the whole product flow
Yeah,
to try to keep everything moving in a direction that's getting stitching done, as opposed to waiting on.
yeah, yeah,
But we know other people, we've seen other operations where they have one cone, so it's like, well, we can't start this until we make some bobbins. It's like, why don't you buy
Yeah.
another $14?
yeah. Good piece of information. And also, as far as the onboard bobbin winders, the official recommendation is that you just run the machine in constant mode while you're winding a bobbin on the machine. It makes it smoother.
Oh.
Some people will wind their bobbin while they're doing stitching. On one side of the machine is making a bobbin, and the one side of the
No,
machine
I see.
stitching.
We
And
just,
that it can have a tendency to make the bobbin wind a little more irregularly than it should. So
we've never gone through it. The first machine we bought a bobbin winder, so we've never used our machines to wind bobbins.
yeah, and if you ask me, I would always recommend having a standalone bobbin winder. It in general just it's devoted to that one task, and it makes a better bobbin.
Right. So the other thing is, we actually have 2 of them. One is still in the box, but because our production is so high, we don't have any single point of failure. Anything that we need, like a bobbin winder, we have 2 of them.
You've got backup.
We
Yeah.
have backup.
Okay.
Yeah, if we have to change a belt or, I don't know. We don't have extra motors. That's the only thing we don't have. We have had to change the motor on one of the machines, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But we're not stocking, those are $1,200. We're not stocking an extra one of those.
I got you. We can ship you one pretty quickly if necessary.
Yeah, you guys
Right,
are really
yeah.
good.
So, let me just ask you, for the people watching, what kind of impact has this particular style of business that you have, the control of your own time and business, what kind of impact does this business have on your life versus working for somebody else?
Well, we make the decision for when we want to work, even though we work long hours typically. But it also we're able to travel when we want to travel. We just came back from a 2-week vacation and, you know, or if we want to do something with our, our kids or whatever, it gives us that flexibility to be able to live our life the way we want to live it and not be glued to a 9 to 5 or whatever, a boss.
Yeah,
I only have to answer to Tom once in a while.
it's, I don't know. I think it's the other way around, but, well, I'm
Right.
not gonna go there. I don't want to stir up any trouble here.
That's all right. As long as he knows his place.
So it would actually be perfect if we were only doing 70% of the business. But we have a backlog that we like to keep down to next to nothing.
Mhm.
So when we're busy, it's like we've got to work. We feel like, our personalities are such. We roll out of bed and we got to get this going and that going and the other thing. I always said through my career, I never wanted to work for myself and I never wanted to work from home. But I have loved working from home, because you can have dinner and you can decide I've got a quilt loaded and I'm gonna watch the hockey game, so I'm just gonna go out there every 15 minutes and start maybe as many as 3 machines and get the stitching done while I'm watching a hockey game. That means you've got nothing going on in the morning and you got to scramble to load 3 machines, etc. But it gives you that kind of flexibility, and you can say, yeah, screw it, I'm gonna sit out on the deck and read a book, or I can work, and you get to choose that.
Nice, very nice. I wanted to ask you guys, and you may or may not have any, uh, have you ever had any, incidences where, difficult, dealing with either difficult customers or problems, dealing with people? And if so,
You're always going to have someone, not always. Occasionally, you'll have someone that you just can't, no matter how hard you try, you can't please them.
it's the world we live in, yeah.
Yeah, it's part of life. So we do, if we need to make financial accommodations or offer to do the next quilt at a reduced rate, or we try and figure it out the best way for that particular customer. But it's very rare that we have a problem. We've had people call us and say, I really didn't want to call you, but I don't really like the way this stitched or
Mhm.
some other minor thing. And we're like, please tell us, because we need to know that it's not right and to watch for those mistakes in the future. And people appreciate that.
Do you think, do you think just the way that you start out, dealing with people in the beginning, do you think that probably heads off some problems?
I do. I feel like if I keep positive from the minute they call me until they've picked up their quilt and walked out the door, um, I think that influences how they respond. And I don't know if you can't tell, I'm kind of a positive person, and I do want to make people happy. I don't want anybody to be upset with our work, but it's very, very rare that we've had to do anything for someone.
Yeah, and I can see that you are a positive person and easy to
So,
deal with.
so we've done, say, 5,000 quilts, and I would say there's probably 3 customers thereabouts that we're never going to see again. And, they were unhappy. They were not going to be happy, no matter, they were unreasonable. And it was like, here's your money back. Goodbye. Good luck with your next long owner. And that was the end of that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's inevitable. You're gonna have a few like that, that occurs, so. Um, let's see. I've got I've got one more question from, Marnie. Do you ever offer advice on quilters piecing?
On quilt is what?
The piecing
Oh,
of,
piecing. Yeah. People ask me questions like that all the time. and I will tell them, bring what you have going and we'll look at it together and I'll tell you what I think, and maybe it's right or wrong, but yeah, I do have people that ask for advice on piecing or putting on a binding, whatever, and I'm more than happy to share what I know. I've been doing it a long time, and you know, I read a lot and I see a lot, a lot of videos, and I talk to people, and um so, I'm always learning myself, but I love being able to teach people or help people along the way. If somebody brings a quilt, well, this is one thing that happens more often than I would like to see. Somebody will bring a quilt that has a really wonky, wavy border. So I try and educate them on how to put the border on their next quilt so it's not wonky and wavy. So things like that, or if they have a quilt with a lot of bias seams, what to do for that. Um, so yeah, I'm always telling
Yeah.
people what to do.
Well, and Marnie was saying that she sometimes finds that people are sometimes intimidated and don't ask,
Right.
and she offers hoping to help, but maybe
The one
not.
thing that I do always, people come in and I don't care how good a quilter they are. They could be the best quilter or the worst quilter. Oh, don't look too close to my quilt. My seams don't match. My points aren't points, whatever. And I always start by saying, you know what, there's no quilt police. And unless this is going to Paducah or Houston, nobody's going to know that your points don't match or your seams aren't straight or whatever. And that usually puts them at ease. I usually get a chuckle, and, then they're willing to talk about what issues they might have down the road.
Do you ever have you ever had to deal with anybody where they brought you something and you're like,
No, yes, yes, and no. Yes, we have had a few quilters where we've said, we just can't do this. This is just not, it's not going to work for you or us. I don't want to give you a bad product. I don't,
and I don't want
um,
anybody knowing I quilted this.
yeah, exactly. But that's rare.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. Okay. Well, listen, we're getting close to the end here. So you guys have been doing this for 8 years. So one of the last things I wanted to ask you is for people that are thinking about getting into what y'all have done, or maybe already are into it, uh, do you think this is something that somebody can still do in this day and age? And just tell us your thoughts about that.
I do. I do. And people will say, oh, there's no young people on quilting. The young people who aren't quilting have very busy careers, young children, whatever, or don't have the interest. But we have a number of young moms who work and quilt, and they love it. So I think that it's going to be a continuing business for a long time.
Excellent.
I would be interested in your view as working for a um, long arm manufacturer, and or I don't know if the fabric industry has an association, a trade association, but they're the ones I would look to say, how is this going? Is this shrinking? Is this shrinking or expanding or staying steady, or what's happening in this industry?
Right. And I do see, from my standpoint, we do see some young people coming into the business. This this general business, in general, it's a little bit of an older population, but
Mm,
I see a lot of 30 30 somethings and 40 somethings getting into the business, coming into the business, and our sales reflect that, so
mm.
from my point of view in Gamel, we see that it's still a robust business, and you know and it's helpful. This thing that we're doing right here, we've been doing this podcast for a year now, and we're just steadily getting different people that are in the business, and And we get the feedback that we get from people that it is so inspiring to see just real people like you guys. You know, we have people like you guys. I've interviewed people here that are teenagers that are doing this, you know, not a whole lot of them, but there's a few of them out there. And there's a lot of 30s and 40s out there that are doing it. So, so yeah, from my point of view, I don't usually give my point of view on here. I do see that it's a robust thing too, and I appreciate you asking that. But looks like we're at the end of the program here now. I want to thank you guys. I, Tom and Kate, is there for the people that are watching this, is there any way that anybody could get in touch with you, or if they wanted to ask you a question or anything?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We're available for any and all questions. We'd be happy to share our experiences and our knowledge and suggestions or recommendations.
Do you have a website or email or anything that you can share with us?
And they can also look at our website, creativelongarmpartners.com, or send us emails through that. creativelongarmpartners@gmail.com.
creativelongarmpartners.com.
Yeah.
And what was the other, did you say another one?
And then the email is creativelongarmpartners@gmail.com.
Okay, okay, excellent. Tom and Kate, thank you so much for your
thank you.
graciousness with that. And we really appreciate it. And with that, we're going to go ahead and end this episode of Quilting Business Success. And it's been great talking to you guys. And happy
It's been great
quilting.
talking to you. We're happy to help.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye,
And
take
bye,
care.
everybody.